Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Therapists Walk into a Podcast. I'm Robin Green, LCSW. I'm a therapist here in Arizona.
And I'm Stephanie Edsel, therapist in Utah. We're here talking about healing, nervous systems, and what it really means to move through life with more choice, more awareness, and less pressure to be perfectly regulated.
Today's episode is kind of a bridge. We've spent the last few episodes exploring trauma responses, how the nervous system works, and what healing actually looks like. Now we're asking, what even is regulation? And why is it so often misunderstood?
Because regulation doesn't mean staying calm all the time. It means building flexibility. It means developing the ability to respond in different ways, not just react. And that has everything to do with agency.
Yeah. And this is also our Series 1 finale. So we're wrapping up the Foundations of Healing series with one of the most important skills we can build, regulation that leads to choice.
Before we jump in, let's take a moment to arrive. If it feels okay, take a breath. Maybe even place a hand somewhere on your body that feels neutral or grounding.
Or if touch doesn't feel supportive, maybe you just notice your surroundings. Light, sound, temperature. However you tune in, welcome.
Before we dive deeper, let's ground this in real life. I had a client once who used to think regulation meant never getting upset. She'd say, I was doing so well, and then I snapped at my partner. So now I'm back at square one. But when we slowed it down, we realized she noticed the tension before she snapped. She even paused for a second. That's progress. That's regulation starting to take root.
I've heard versions of that so many times too. The shift isn't that we never get overwhelmed. It's that we start seeing it, catching it, naming it. That's really that rewiring. It's not clean, and it's not fast, but it's real. So let's start with the most basic question. What is regulation? Most people think it means being calm, and yeah, calm can be a part of it, but it's not the whole story.
Not even the whole story at all, because regulation is about capacity. It's your system's ability to come back to a place of relative balance. Not perfect neutrality, not feeling good all the time. In fact, we're not entitled to feel good all the time. Knowing, though, enough presence that you can make a choice about what comes next.
Yeah, exactly. And we've said this before. Regulation isn't about being unbothered. It's about being able to move through the bother, riding that wave, to feel your feelings without getting stuck in them, to experience that activation without getting overwhelmed by it.
What a concept. It's true. Just,
I know.
Growing up in some of the environments I think people grow up in, having a parent that appeared calm on the outside but was actually in that collapse mode.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Here's where agency comes in. When you're regulated, you're more likely to have access to your full self, like your core self, your voice, your values, your tools. You're not just reacting on autopilot.
Right. And I think it's also important to say there's no gold star for staying regulated.
Dang it!
Sometimes yelling, crying, even shutting down. Those can be regulated responses when they're coming from a place of awareness and choice.
Absolutely. It's not about being stoic. That is not how we do this. It's about being responsive, not reactive.
I love that. I love that phrase. So when we work with clients, we're often helping them build what we call nervous system flexibility, the ability to move between those states, to pendulate, to know what tools help you shift when you need to.
And that doesn't mean you avoid dysregulation. It means you can return from it. You can recognize it, ride it, and recover.
Which, let's be honest, is a lot more realistic than trying to stay calm forever.
Definitely. I think one of the most helpful things we can normalize is that regulation might look different for different people. What helps one person feel present might totally overstimulate someone else.
Yes. And that's where the concept of agency really lives. When you start identifying what actually works for you, not just what's recommended. I love that.
I do too. Just watching people carry around values that probably don't even belong to them really anymore, and not sure why am I behaving this way, or why do I feel this way.
Precisely.
We could even be talking about music, movement, stillness, silence. It might mean calling a friend, taking a walk, doing something repetitive with your hands. Regulation is about what restores your connection to yourself.
Right. So beautifully said. And there's no finish line. It's something you build through repetition and gentleness. It's a practice. And you'll lose it and find it over and over and over. And that's okay.
If you're someone who's learning to regulate for the first time, especially after years of survival mode, please hear this. It is not about mastery. It's about movement, small shifts, micro movements, if you will.
Love those micro movements and micro moments.
Me too.
And your system will learn. It does learn slowly, gently, inconsistently, like anything worth learning.
Today's nervous system nugget is all about regulation, okay? Regulation isn't a state, it's actually a skill. It's something you practice, not something you achieve, and it doesn't have to look like stillness. It can look like movement, sound, expression, setting a boundary, anything that supports choice and presence.
Right. And, if all you did this week was notice when you were tense or when something helped you soften, that's regulation. That's the work too.
I like that. I don't think people consider regulation work.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe. So, before we close, we want to invite you to think about this. What does regulation feel like for you? Not what you think it should look like, but what it actually feels like in your body when you have space, breath, or just a second to choose.
So you don't need a perfect answer. Maybe it's the moment you speak a boundary or when your shoulders drop without you forcing it, or that sigh that you take. Maybe it's when you remember to drink water that check-in, that's enough. That's where it starts.
People take for granted the small stuff, the small changes in small ways. Oh, how they add up. So, before we go, can we just take a second to celebrate?
Yes. We have reached the end of series 1. That's 5 episodes of laying the groundwork, breaking down some of those trauma responses, learning what regulation really is, and building awareness, curiosity, and choice.
And if you've been with us from the beginning, or even if this is your first episode, you've just done some serious nervous system work. And we see you.
We're so glad that you've been here. Whether you listened while walking the dog, zoning out in traffic, or hiding in the bathroom between meetings. That's like knowing laughter. This space has been just for you. So if you've been, beating yourself up for not staying calm or thinking that you're failing at regulation, this is your reminder, that it's not about perfection. It's about having options.
I love that. Having options, giving, that sense of agency, as we talked about a few minutes ago. You don't have to control your feelings. You just need space to move with them. That's what this whole series has been about. Awareness, curiosity, choice.
Right. We've talked about the nervous system, trauma responses, what healing really looks like, and now we're closing out series 1 by giving you the one tool that underpins all of it: flexibility.
We explored survival modes, why healing isn't linear, and what trauma really does in the body, and how regulation gives us more than just calm. It gives us choice. And next time, we begin series 2, the science of connection.
We'll be talking about co-regulation, attachment, how the past still shows up in the present, boundaries, relational repair, and why we can't do this work alone.
I mean, if you think about it, you can't, do a root canal on your own, right? You're going to need to go see a dentist. So it makes sense that you need some help on this. And if you haven't already, please make sure you're following the podcast. And if this episode or any from Series 1 helped you, we'd love it if you shared it.
Thanks for being here with us. And wherever you are in your own healing, whether you're just noticing your nervous system for the very first time or learning to return to yourself after hard moments, you're doing the work, and we are cheering you on.
And truly, thank you. Thank you so much for walking through Series 1. We can't wait to keep going.
And as always,
healing isn't linear, and we're here for the ride.
Thanks for sitting with us today. If something resonated, we'd love it if you shared the episode, left a review, or connected with us on social media. We're 2 therapists walk into a podcast on most platforms. You can listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not therapy, does not replace therapy, and does not establish a therapist-client relationship. If you're in crisis, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional or call 988 in the US. Robin Green is a licensed therapist in Arizona, and Stephanie Edsall is licensed in Utah. And this podcast is intended for a general audience.